Hello friends, welcome to my channel. It's already December and you know what that means. It is almost time for the Tucson Gem Show 2023. Last year was my first year going to the Tucson Gem Show, and if you watched my very chaotic vlog, you know that I was a bit overwhelmed. After doing a bunch of research about the Tucson Gem Show, I thought I knew what to expect, but it was actually very different than I thought it would be. And I did learn a lot of things going for the first time last year. Well, this year, 2022. So today I would like to share a little list I made of tips I have for crystal shopping at the Tucson Gem Show if you are going for the first time in 2023, or if it's the future and you're going for the first time in 2024, 2025. Just some tips I wish I would have known before going to the Tucson Gem Show that I think may make your experience a little more enjoyable and a little more stress-free. Some of these feel a little obvious or a little self-explanatory, like maybe you're like, duh, obviously I already knew that, everyone knows that. But I didn't, so if these could help even one person have a more enjoyable and valuable experience at the show, then I will have done my job. Before we get into the video, just a quick reminder to please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in seeing more fun crystal content. I am currently in the middle of planning my own Tucson Gem Show trip, which will of course come with vlogs, lots of crystal content, so be sure to subscribe if you want to come along for the journey. Also, a quick thank you for 800 subscribers. I am at like 797 right now, so I'm just gonna assume that I will have hit 800 by the time I post this. I know that's not like a ton, but I really enjoy creating these videos, and sometimes I kind of forget that like real people are actually watching my videos. So if you're here watching, and especially if you're subscribed and have been watching all of my videos, I appreciate you for being here and thank you for supporting my content. But let's get into my tips. I think I have 10 tips of things that I wish I had known before going to the Tucson Gem Show. Okay, the first tip that really kind of caught me off guard when I went to Tucson was, and this may be one of the obvious ones, but stick with me here. I was surprised to see that there was not one main Tucson Gem Show. I knew there were tons of little shows throughout the whole month, all across Tucson. I did know that, but I did think that there was like the Tucson Gem Show. Like I thought there was one show that was the main show that everyone was going to. When I planned my trip for this year, 2022, I planned my trip only from February like 8th to 12th or something, like the very end of the show, because on the website it said Tucson Gem Show main show or something like that. So I was like, okay, that's the show. That's what everyone goes to. It's not. That is not the main show. I planned my trip for the very last couple of days, and by that time, some of the most popular shows were already closed and over with. So when I realized this, I had to extend my trip to like a week before. Keep in mind that there's not just one main show that people are going to. There are some like sites to see, I think, that everyone is posting about that you may be interested in seeing. So I'd like to share some of the ones that I was interested in and where I found them. So the shows that I got that main show vibes at were the Kino show and the Pueblo show. So the Kino show had all the big amethyst cathedrals, the huge pieces of amethysts, the butterfly wings, the really big statement pieces. It had tons of other amazing vendors too. I think the Kino show was probably my favorite actually, but that was one of the show where I was like, oh, this is where people are taking all those pictures. Like I've seen this before. This is what I was looking for. And the other one is the Pueblo show, which was another amazing show. The Pueblo show is where I found the vendors that have more giant statement pieces, like that rose quartz carving piece that you may see in a lot of pictures. That is from the Pueblo show. Another thing that is noteworthy from the Tucson Gem Show is the rose quartz pathway. That is at Enter the Earth warehouse. They are actually their own thing. I think they used to be a part of other big shows, but they now have their own warehouse. So that's where you will find the rose quartz little walkway that everyone makes videos of. They specialize in pieces from Madagascar. So if you're interested in that, that would be a good one to check out. Another show that I think is a main show that you may see in videos or that is advertised as a must-see show is the 22nd Street show. I would say it was not a great show for wholesale buyers. They didn't have the best prices, they didn't have the best selection. But if you are just going to look around for fun or to look for personal collection pieces, the 22nd Street show might be a good one. Okay, so my next tip, which is very similar and related to the last tip, is that if you are a wholesale buyer, you should probably start early. Most of the shows for 2023 seem to be starting on January 26th. If you are a wholesale buyer and looking to buy for reselling purposes, I would definitely hit the gem show early if you want the best selection. For some reason, I was under the impression that it was like exclusive to go early and like only certain people can go early. I don't know why I thought that. No one ever said that, but that's what I thought, so I planned to go later. But this year I'm going much earlier to get a better selection and so that I don't miss out on some of the shows. Next up, this one is so important if you are a business or buying for resale purposes, is don't forget your business paperwork. I had another predicament this year where my business cards were supposed to be delivered like a day or so before I left for Tucson, and I got delivered an empty box from Vistaprint instead of my business cards, and I needed my business cards for the show. So I had to have them delivered to my hotel in Tucson. So make sure you are stocked up on business cards. Make sure you have your proper paperwork in order to buy wholesale. Apparently, they don't take your tax EIN number as proof of business. They need your resale certificate, which I believe is different in every state. So for me in Ohio, it is my vendor's license that I needed to bring. None of the vendors like physically took a copy of my vendor's license. I would just write down my info and I would put in my vendor's license number and all my paperwork. I think some vendors did take my EIN number because I asked them and we were both confused. So they just took that, but I don't believe that's what is supposed to be. So make sure you have your proper resale certificates and licenses, whatever you need to prove that you are a legitimate business who is paying taxes. Some vendors don't ask at all, but it's best to just be sure that you do have the paperwork you need. Some shows you can actually register to buy wholesale ahead of time so you don't have to worry about it while you're there. And some shows require that you register ahead of time in order to get into the show. None of the shows I went to needed to do that. It was up to the individual vendors who asked me for my paperwork when I was checking out. My next tip is to bring a cart or a wagon, any sort of thing so you are not carrying around heavy boxes. This may be one that seems self-explanatory, and it was on my mind this year. I was going to pick up a wagon. When I got to Tucson, I was going to go to Walmart or something and get one, and I never did. And I was regretting it, okay? I bought so many boxes at the Keno show, and the parking lot was so far away. I had to take so many breaks in between walking from the vendors to my car. It was awful. I was so sore from carrying boxes, and I was definitely regretting not bringing a cart. And actually, one of the shows, I was carrying a box back to my car, and on these stupid dusty roads with these weeds and stuff, I tripped on some weed in the ground and I fell and I ripped my pants. It was embarrassing. It was just a tiny rip. It wasn't anything crazy, and I don't think anyone saw, but I was like, when you have a long day and then you just trip and fall on the ground, it's not a good time. So just bring a cart, anything to help you carry crystals around if you plan on buying a lot. Next is be sure to bring cash. I was surprised by this. A lot of vendors only take cash. And there are ATMs. They're pretty accessible. I was able to find an ATM whenever I needed one, but it is inconvenient when you are getting ready to pay a vendor and you have to, walk down the street to the ATM. And the ATMs do have withdrawal limits, so then you have to keep going through $200 at a time to get your money out. And the ATM fees, of course, and waiting in lines. It's just easier to go to your bank or something ahead of time and bring cash so you are prepared. I did have some vendors that actually took PayPal. Some vendors from China took PayPal, but that definitely was not common. Also, be careful of your credit card or debit card getting put on a hold for making too many withdrawals and transactions. That did happen to me. Quite embarrassing to have your card declined. Actually, my card does not say declined when it's put on hold. It says denied. So my card was denied a couple times and I had to use a different card. So if you don't have a business credit card or your credit card company is not used to you making huge withdrawals and huge purchases from international vendors, just be cautious of that. Another question I had when I got to the Tucson Gem Show, I was confused because I did not know, what are the prices? Are the prices shown the wholesale prices, or do you have to ask for wholesale prices? How does it work? So some very nice vendor was explaining it to me because I was walking around so confused, and she was telling me how the prices listed are the wholesale prices. She was telling me how the 22nd Street show is mainly a retail show, but you can ask and make sure that you are getting the wholesale prices. In my experience at all of the shows, they are all listed as wholesale prices. I don't think there was any instance where the price listed wasn't wholesale and you had to ask. So it is safe to assume that all the prices you are seeing are the wholesale price. And when you check out, they will ask for your tax information to prove that you are a business, so you are getting the wholesale price. Another thing that may seem obvious, but I did not do and I regretted, was plan your days according to where the shows are at. There is a map of where all the Tucson gem shows are, and I believe there's even an app that will show you where all of the gem shows are. Some of them are right next to each other, or across the street. Some are very, very close, and some are on the other side of town. I was not very cautious when planning out my days, and I was driving back and forth a lot when I did not need to be. So make sure when you are planning your days out that you are picking the shows that are next to each other to go to on the same day, so you're not driving all over town and wasting unnecessary time. Another important thing to remember is to stay organized when you're buying lots and lots of inventory at the gem show. Of course, you'll get invoices, receipts, whatever. You'll get business cards from the suppliers. You may think that's enough to remember what you paid for things, but especially if you're buying a huge amount of inventory, it's very easy to forget what was from where and how much you paid for this. Some problem I came across when I was pricing my items from the gem show, I couldn't read the handwriting on the receipts. So I didn't know what to price my crystals at because I couldn't remember how much I paid and I couldn't read the writing. A good idea that I will definitely be doing for next year is I have a little notebook or something that I will write down all of the prices when I buy them. So when I'm pricing crystals in the future, I will have correct information. It's definitely a good idea to bring a folder to keep your tax info organized and your receipts and the business cards you collect from vendors. So I will definitely be doing that this upcoming year. And while I'm saying that, I was just thinking, I do have mini notebooks in my shop right now. So if you would like to buy a mini notebook to keep in your purse while you're at the Tucson Gem Show, I'll have them linked down below. Another very important thing to remember when shopping at the gem show is that you are going to have to ship all of these crystals home with you. And there are convenient UPS shipping locations at a lot of the shows. I would definitely encourage you to use those resources instead of trying to do it yourself, unless you're buying a very small inventory and you can just fit it in a box and ship it home. At the gem show this year, I was being annoying and I decided I wanted to ship everything home myself to try and save some money. So I bought all my labels online and dropped them off at the UPS store, which in theory was like, I'm a genius. This is the best idea ever. I just saved so much money. It was a nightmare. So I absolutely do not recommend that you try and do things yourself. Go to the UPS points that they provide you with and make sure you do it right. What happened for me was that I made my labels on pirate ship as I would if I was shipping an order. So I just shipped them to myself. But the problem is my return address was my address and the shipping to address was my address. So the UPS label was created thinking it was shipping from the region of my address, when in reality it was shipping from Tucson. So once they got scanned in, I got charged a huge extra fee on every box because they had to adjust the trajectory of the box. Like it said it was shipping from Ohio, but it's really shipping from Tucson. So I got charged extra for all of those boxes. And it still didn't end up being like ridiculously expensive, but it was very unfortunate when I went on my email and saw a bunch of emails saying, you've been charged an extra $50 on this package. So just don't try and take shortcuts like I did. Just do it right. And if you are only buying a couple of pieces, maybe for your personal collection, or you have a really small inventory and you want to ship it all in just one box, keep in mind that post office is closed on Sundays. Yes, it seems obvious, but I had left all of my shipping for the last day of my trip. And you know what day that ended up being? A Sunday. So I had to drop all of my packages off at all these miscellaneous locations. It was so unbelievably stressful. So if you are planning to send things home from the post office or the UPS store, make sure you don't leave that task for a Sunday. I was just trying too hard to save a little extra money, and I should have just gone to the UPS points that they have at the shows and just done it right. I will definitely be doing it right this upcoming year, even if it ends up being more expensive for me. It's just not worth the hassle. I don't know why. There's just something about me where I feel like I can come up with a better idea than anyone else is doing. Like, wow, why doesn't everyone else just print their own labels and ship them home? I'm so smart. I'm saving so much money. I'm not going to do it the way everybody else does it. And my ideas are never good. So I just need to do what I'm supposed to do. I need to do things the right way. And my last tip for shopping at the Tucson Gem Show, this is maybe the most important tip. Don't feel pressured to spend more than you should. You don't have to spend outside of your means just because other shops are sending 3 pallets of crystals home. Just because other people are buying a year's worth of inventory, you don't have to feel pressured to buy that much too. I was feeling guilty of that, where I had the money to spend and I felt obligated to spend it because everyone else was spending a lot of money. And maybe that's just me being easily influenced. Maybe other people don't struggle with that, but I was definitely comparing myself to other shops and seeing how much they were sending home. And I'm like, I should be buying that much for my shop too. Like, if I want to be a successful crystal shop, I need to be buying a year's worth of inventory right now. And I ended up spending a lot, not more than I expected, but I ended up buying some things that I didn't necessarily get a good deal on or didn't really need to be buying at the show just because I was focused on buying a lot. You can still get value out of going to a gem show even if you have a very small budget. Or even if you don't want to spend money, you can still connect with new suppliers and take their business information, take a business card, and order from them in the future when you are able to spend more money. If you have a small shop, this can be a great opportunity to just hand pick some beautiful pieces for your shop. Even if you're not buying in huge quantities, you can go just to look around, take pictures, create content, do a vlog. There's so much you can get out of going to the shows that even if you don't have money to spend or you don't want to spend tons and tons of money, it can still be very beneficial for your business and very fun. One misconception I had about the Tucson Gem Show was that these were going to be the best prices that I could get, so I had to buy everything at the show. And the prices definitely were not necessarily the best that I could find. A lot of the things at the gem shows were things I could get from my normal suppliers at any time, for better prices even. I feel like I brought home some things from the gem shows that I could get anytime, and I didn't need to spend all my money at the show and so much on shipping and carrying it around when I could just buy things from my suppliers during the year. Some vendors will have the same things for different prices at the show, so do a little shopping around before you go ahead and splurge on something. Something I'm really going to be focusing on at the gem show this upcoming year is focusing on unique things that I can't normally get from my regular suppliers and really focusing on hand picking specific pieces instead of trying to get a huge quantity. This year I definitely plan on having a lot more fun at the show and hopefully having a much more relaxing and chill time instead of running around like crazy, being stressed, carrying tons of rocks, tripping on the ground, driving back and forth to post offices. I hope these tips could help you know what to expect if you are going to the Tucson Gem Show for the first time. Hopefully you have an amazing time. Hopefully it is much less stressful for you than it was for me on my first show. And if you have been to the show before, be sure to leave any other tips you may have below to help others out who are going for the first time. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see my gem show content when I do go. Be sure to check out my crystal shop, and be sure to like the video and comment if you have some more tips for people about the Tucson Gem Show, or tell me about your Tucson Gem Show experience. My eye is twitching. That means time for me to go. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Check out my links below. Goodbye.